it was complicated because we grew up on a street, and the street, it consisted of so many different kind of cultures. We had people who were Polish, people who were from Czechoslovakia, you had people who were from where I'm from, Asian people. We had a lot of different cultures surrounding us, and also obviously you had your white Yorkshire people that we lived next to as well. And I think in terms of like language and culture, that street, just the street itself, it was a reflection of what Yorkshire was like at the time. And you know, it was chaotic, but it was lovely. You know, as a kid, you go out and you stay out on the street till about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, come home and sleep. And you know, we all had a really good bond and a really good connection. It was through that one street that I managed to learn about 4 or 5 or 6 different cultures myself. So originally we come from Pakistan. So my granddad came from Pakistan when he was 14, and he's grown up here all his life. My mum was born here as well. And we come from Kashmir, so it's more up on the mountains. And yeah, so I've got family in Denmark, got family in Germany, you know, so in my family we've got people who speak so many different languages as well. And I was saying to my sister, it's quite interesting that we outwardly, obviously we look obviously completely foreign, especially the way we dress and the way we look, but you hear us speak and you hear the thickest Yorkshire accent ever sometimes. So I think it's really complex and really layered. I'd see the way my teachers would speak, I'd see the way my elders would speak. I'd come from a house of people who speak with a proper thick Yorkshire accent, and when I go out into the workplace, it's professional. You know, you had people speaking with this really posh accent. Even on the TV, you see a lot of people speaking with a southern accent, and my accent was so different, and I was sat there thinking, like, why do I speak like this? And especially because I speak Punjabi as well, and I can understand and speak a bit of Hindi. That layered with the Yorkshire accent, it makes something completely different, you know. The way we speak it's different on the onset as well. You can hear it in our voice, the fact that I'm not completely, you know, part of the Yorkshire, like my Yorkshire dialect, and the way I speak isn't completely, you know, it's not a typical white Yorkshire accent, it's got something else within it. So in terms of dual heritage, I think it took a while for me to accept that, you know what, yeah, this is how I'm going to speak, and I'm not going to change it for anybody, because I tried to conform a little bit here and there growing up, because I felt like the way I was speaking wasn't right, it wasn't proper. But as I've got older, I'm 22 now, I'm thinking, nah, this is who I am, this is it now. I think food and language are the things that are definitely the two things that stick out for me when I think about my heritage, whether it's my Yorkshire heritage or my Pakistani heritage. You know, one night we'll be sat having fish and chips, and the next night we'll be sat having a curry, and you know, I think it was just absolutely beautiful to see. I love the fact that we can speak so many different languages. Being Pakistani, like I mentioned before, you've got 2 types of Punjabi, you've got Hindi, you've got Urdu. We've learned how to read Arabic, and then on top of that, we've got our English as well. We've got this place called The Rocks on Savile Park, and I just go there and I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's scenic. That on a night, that on a morning, that in the snow, in the sun, it's just beautiful all year round. And then there's a place called Malham in North Yorkshire. The waterfall is absolutely stunning. And my sister, bless her, she lives in Dubai now. She sold us out. She lives in Dubai now, and when she comes here, she's like, oh my God, I miss this greenery, because that's what Yorkshire is. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I carry Yorkshire in my mouth. If you open my gob wide enough, you'll see fields of green, 3 peaks, tea leaves. Syllables seep out of the gaps in my teeth. Excalibur frost falls from the cave of my lips. River Earth seeps in furrows of my tongue. River Indus streams close behind. I cut the web, water from east and west collide. I carry Yorkshire in his mouth. Tip of my tongue is an arrow that points to the north. If you look close enough, you'll see a graveyard for tea. R.I.P. R.P. Back alley streets bent like my English, leading you back to 1953. My gob is where Raj and Dane unite. Sitar and horn play in perfect harmony, whilst white roses bloom from the callus on my gums caused by the roughness of my speech. When it feels a bit too heavy, I drag Yorkshire in my mouth. Each sound is a constant reminder of home, history, home. I pinch the blessing, the burden, clench my jaw, try to bite back my roots, but they slide through my shame, showing the world my blushing fields of green.
Where I currently live and have grown up, there's a park right outside, and we just used to spend as much time as possible in that park, making a goalpost out of the fences and just playing football, any other sports we could really, and just going down to there's the college down the road, and we shouldn't have, but we did manage to get on the field at the time, and we just used to kick about, honestly, till like sunset, just playing any games we could. Yeah, it was quite fun and multicultural as well in the area that I live. My grandma, I want to say, came over here during the 70s or 80s. My mum's got family in Hong Kong as well. We've got family in the UK, like spread all over really. Some down south, literally spread over Yorkshire as well. And then my dad he went to secondary school here. They were about like, my dad was probably early teenagers when he came over here. My mum a bit later on, towards her 20s. And then like a lot of my uncles, they started working. Where I live, there were a lot of like, we've got some Italians down the road, a lot of Pakistani families, some Czechoslovakians, Polish people. There's a lot of like people in different from different areas of the world, or with that sort of heritage. And it was just that when we came together in the parks to play, even though at times there were language barriers, there were some words that we kind of kept repeating and got accustomed to between all of us in order to play a game. And I think that was the one thing that united us all, you know, the fun of like, the fun and innocence of childhood really, like, you know, being able to play and stuff. I played sports from like a really young age, from like about 2, 3 up until I was 17, and the main issue I had was with my clothing when I was playing it, sort of to say like, you know, having to wear like my salwar kameez and juttiya, which is sort of like sandals, and having to kick a ball with them. So I'd constantly see red on my foot and like chip a toenail and stuff, because it was just what I'd wear and stuff. And like that was mainly what I wore growing up and stuff, and so like playing football, like that was quite hard, but you had to get around it. Like you sort of wrap your scarf around the side, keep your like kameez from flying about and stuff, so you can actually like, you know, run around and do whatever you want. And a lot of my younger cousins do that too. I've broken a lot of sandals from playing football, but it was, you know, I think it made me a better footballer at the time from, you know, not being scared of the ball. And then also like, I think in terms of what we ate at home as well, like mixing British foods with our heritage and roots, you know, from the spices we have at home. So you've got your traditional fish and chips, and then also making it, you know, like masala fish and chips, or even like tea, making that in a farpan, what we call it, like, you know, in the pan, put more milk than water, actually, no water at all, and it's quite nice as well. So like, you know, there's a lot of like common ground between the two cultures, but it's just fusing them together and finding a balance that suits you. And I think that was what my experience was growing up, you know, finding that balance between the two cultures, if there is any at all, you know, and navigating that space. What you get is you get a pan of sorts, something, a saucepan, right, that's the word. You get a saucepan, you put it on the stove, you put in however milk you want, as if, you know, that would be the equivalent of water in your tea. So you put in a solid amount of milk, 2 tea bags, you let that come to a boil, but simmer like slowly, like put the heat on high. Once it starts to boil and like bubble over the pan, lower the heat, the bubbles will come down. Once that's done, you know, you can add your sugar and everything else in, and then just pour it in. Obviously take the tea bags out, but if you do want to make it a bit more sweeter or nicer, then you can add your cinnamon, cardamom pops, what else could you put in? I can't think of the English alternative at the minute, but ilachi, that's quite good in tea, and whatever else you want in really, but I stick to the basic, just tea bags, milk, sugar, done. I think language mostly, specifically the different dialects and languages in itself. Urdu or Patwari is what my mother taught me growing up. Specifically the stories I used to get told before bedtime, so like kolam kahaniya, and I grew up thinking, oh, I've never been told a bedtime story, because there weren't one physically read to me in a book that was English or something. And then it wasn't up until later on that I realised, I used to get bedtime stories. They were just called kahaniyas, and you know, I don't know why it took such a long time for me to register that, but that was one of my favourite things, you know, them bedtime stories from my mum. Also, I think you can't not say the food or the tea. I think it's just a staple part of, you know, growing up, but more specifically around the time of Ramadan, where we sort of, before you close your fast in the early hours of the morning before sunrise, a lot of Asian people will have paratha and tea. It's sort of, you dip your paratha in the tea like a biscuit, but it's a weird combination, but also it's a really good combination. I think I really enjoyed the time around Ramadan. You know, you appreciate and value food more. I think how like casually everyone speaks mainly, or how polite they are. I think the thing that overlaps between the two is politeness and hospitality mainly. I also think one time, to digress, but one time I was off during this poetry competition in Birmingham, and someone was offering something and it was for free, and I was like, if it's free I'll take it. And I started laughing. I was like, oh, that's the Asian in me. And then I was with a couple of people, they were like, maybe that's a Yorkshire in you too. And I was like, do you know what, never thought of it that way. But yeah, there's a lot of overlap that you don't realise, because like you're so used to how you do you know what I mean, like you're so used to how you deal with things growing up. I think Yorkshire, I mean, the overlap continues with the cricket as well. Like, I used to play a bit of cricket growing up, mainly the sports, football. I used to play a bit of rugby when I was younger. I think I like the sports, plus like the chants and stuff. Like you can't get them chants anywhere else. Calloused hands, sandpaper for tongues, gaps in our speech filled by cups of tea. But when we speak, our teeth turn into piano keys. We sing melodies from gullies and paths paved by cobblestone and concrete. Mark our walks with moors, cricket fields and goalposts. We don't skip cues, but maybe drop some T's. We have our own dictionary. We're best known for its hospitality, more specifically hospitality. Cups, mugs and kettles full of it. For bronze too, call it a cuppa, a brew, chai or Yorkshire's finest tea, because everyone knows that is what we do. We punctuate our sentences with love, pet and arcade, create a dozen different ways, but always with a smile on our face. Ay up. We don't water down our accent, instead we strengthen it with 2 to 3 cups of brew, nurture the sounds of Halifax, Huddersfield, Bradford, Leeds, Rotherham, Barnsley, Ilkley, Sheffield, Whitby, York, Harrogate and Haworth. And you still wonder why our fields are so green. When we speak, our words water the earth. Vocabulary rich of minerals and plenty of tar love, you're right pet, chuffing necks to revitalise the ground. The flower we have is beauty in its own barbed wire, a metaphor of our speech is the white rose of Yorkshire.